past week has been a sad, shocking, and furious memory for all of us. We certainly watched how violent human greed and wrong ideas can turn out. It trampled on everyone's peace and destroyed promises between people. My heart was broken as well looking at this because the precious value of freedom and democracy was denied. Those are equal for everyone without exclusion. So it is crucial to humanity. As a Christian, I thought that keeping those values is the least way we can practice love in reality. So the moment I saw the value being destroyed and the minimum boundaries being broken, I felt that the invasion was real evil, and the violent incident was sending people a tacit sign that it is okay to trample, suppress, and abuse anything they don't like in the future, not just the case itself. I thought this incident caused everyone to fall into the evil that reproduces violence continuously. So I had no choice but to deeply consider what values are important to us today and how Christians should influence our contemporaries. I mourned our reality over the past week and prayed that our society and nation would move toward justice, love, and peace. I want to ask you to pray together with this issue, Father. While I was reading the lectionary this week, I found wisdom in Genesis we read together. We mainly think of Genesis chapter 1 as a story that tells the process of creation. We mainly talk about God's creation, omnipotence, and omnipresence, but one sentence in verse 5 resonates with my heart in a new way. It said, "There was evening and there was morning, the first day." We usually think of starting the day in the morning. The greeting of good morning feels like the beginning. We call to mind a simple breakfast and coffee. With the intensely warm and bright sun rising, we wake up and make our day. But in today's text, I found that evening is the beginning of the day. The author of Genesis understands that the day starts in the evening and it ends in the morning. The author said, "In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while the Spirit of God was moving the faces of the waters." It means that chaos, emptiness, and the dark abyss was before the light. As Genesis says, every beginning is as chaotic, empty, and darkness covered the face of the deep. Whatever it is, the beginning is always challenging for all of us. The beginning is chaotic because nothing is certain. The beginning is empty because we don't see what the result will be in the dark. Therefore, God created the light first, and the light immediately filled the chaotic world, and God called it a day and darkness as night. The day of God's creation begins in the evening and moves toward the morning. Many Old Testament scholars say that Israel wrote Genesis, which tells its own story of creation, in response to the Babylonian creation story during their Babylonian exile period. For the Israel author of Genesis, the violent domination of Babylonian Empire would have been chaos, emptiness, and the depths of darkness itself. So the author suggested a perspective of time that begins with darkness and ends with light, saying, there was evening and there was morning the first day. Come to think of it, it's not just one day's counting, but in fact, our history began in the dark. God made a world of light, order, and harmony from a world in chaos, emptiness, and the deep darkness. After that, God said it was good. So, what we believe in God's creation is that in every situation that begins with chaos, emptiness, and darkness, it becomes a source of power to hope for a light, whether it is an individual's life or the history of mankind. God makes the light in the dark. God turns the night to the morning. I remember the Saturday night in the middle of the winter in 2016. That winter was freezing cold that year. I went out to Gwanghwamun Square in Korea with a candlelight. Millions of people gathered there together to hold a small candle as they overcome the freezing cold. Everyone gathered peacefully with one desire, hoping that the corrupt president would step down. From newborn babies to young children, youth, and the elderly, everyone gathered there regardless of age, gender. There was no violence at all. Citizens spoke their voices beautifully, creatively, dynamically, and respectfully. On that dark night, people gathered their small candles to make a big light, hoping for a morning that would brighten up again. Like that, our faith is to expect God to work as a new light in all anxiety and darkness. Today, our reality is rather dark and hopeless and gloomy. The COVID-19 situation does not seem to be easily calmed down, and democracy, which contains our spirit, has been severely damaged. Conflicts and hostility between people have deepened. Racism still persists everywhere, and many people around us are still suffering from hunger and poverty. In the midst of this difficult situation, we look upon God, who makes light from evening to morning. Dear everyone, God opens up a new morning throughout the evening. God is the one who makes morning in the dark. We are the people who wait for the morning God opens. The deeper the night, the darker the darkness, the closer the dawn comes. At the beginning of the 2021 New Year, our reality is dark, but we hope to light up each of our lights in expectation of God opening a new morning for us. Let us pray in silence.